Hello everybody, welcome to Nintendo Pow Block here on Boss Rush Games. I'm your host and enlightened and excited Eddie V. Joining me is the devastating Dungeoneer himself, Mr. David Laxby.
Hey everybody.
The gallivanting Gallatrat himself, Mr. Jacob Taylor.
Hey, hi, howdy.
And of course, Bossman himself, the one, the only, Mr. Corey Derrick.
Hello.
Hello,
I couldn't think of something cool like everybody else. David's so professional. Jacob's like the wacky guy. Now I'm just kind of boring hello now.
You're a man of many talents. You should have did your Sean Connery. You'd be like, hello.
Oh gosh, no, I'm not doing my Sean Connery impression. It's been so long.
Well, yes. Our indie insider himself, Mr. Dan Murphy, couldn't be here. He is flying back home, and I could tell you in person, he is amazing. I'll talk a little bit later about that. But how was everybody's weekend? David, how was your weekend?
It was good. It was filled with a lot of Skyward Sword,
Yes.
which was just a treat. I know we're going to talk a lot about that later. So,
Yes. Isn't it weird from our $60 talk and the complaints about that game to everybody loving it like on social media?
oh yeah,
Like it's so weird. But we all knew that was probably going to happen. Corey, how was your weekend?
It was pretty eventful, actually. Just playing games and trying to keep kids quiet, like right now, apparently. But yeah, I also played a lot of Skyward Sword, and thank God they took motion controls out. That's all I have to say.
No, the motion controls are even better.
I tried.
We're gonna have to talk about this because they are fantastic.
We will get into it in our doc mode, everybody. Jacob, how was your weekend?
I played the most Skyward Sword. My weekend was good. I had my 24-hour Skyward Sword live stream on Saturday, and then Sunday I was working on some hardware stuff behind the scenes for my stream that I will talk about later. So,
Yes. My weekend was packed. Was like straight boss rush, aka crossover with another Zelda podcast. Man, I got to meet the EXP cast, Story, Pat, Josh. Got to meet Stephanie and Celeste and her boyfriend Timmy. Oh man, they are just awesome, like literally awesome. We had some good conversations. Definitely got to meet Dan Murphy on Sunday, and man, he is amazing. I felt such an honor to meet him. I feel like I'm meeting celebrities and stuff. Dan is just so cool. If everybody, you can check at that retro code, and if you follow us on Twitter, we got some pics up there that we took up Wrigley Field. Dan is just a star when he has his glasses on, because he's just like, you're not gonna take a picture of me with my chest in my face. You're gonna get the glasses.
Oh my god!
So,
did you mention Stoy? Was Stoy there as well?
yes, so it was there. He's awesome from EXP. We got to talk about games and just like all Wisconsin stuff. And of course, Jesse came. Jesse Douglas from Arsenal X. He came, and it was so good to see him. Like when I was just like, Jesse, when I seen him, I just gave him a big hug because I miss him and everything. But yeah, the video game summit was really good, man. I took part in another Zelda podcast quiz. Came in second, everybody. Could have been the
Ed
first.
lost a game show quiz. Can't believe it.
well, unfortunately, they didn't ask him how does Link regain his hearts.
Yeah.
Yeah, Stephanie ended up winning. She came away, but it was so fun, and I gave a lot of reasons for why I chose my answer. So you guys will be able to hear that. I think it's in 2 weeks on another Zelda podcast on .com. You guys will be able to check that out.
I can't wait to listen to that.
Yes, there was some audio issues, but I think David is going to clean it up. Which shout out to him from another Zelda podcast. He hosted a barbecue for us, and man, the guy could cook. His fiance is amazing too. Their dog and their cat just like they are just everything and more. So shout out to David. We actually got into Ocarina in a Majora's Mask discussion, David, which was really good.
You'll have to fill me in on that one, Ed.
Yes. But everybody, yes, the video game summit was amazing. Okay, so David, I did try to find Alien Colonial Marines for the 360, and I think I'm gonna have to order on Amazon because didn't nobody have it, which was surprising. A lot of people were selling like Halo and Gears and stuff. They were selling a lot of Nintendo and Famicom things also.
For our listeners that don't know, Ed likes to give me a hard time about loving Alien Colonial Marines, but we could probably do a whole podcast just on that. So,
so yes. But that was the video game summit, and yeah, shout out once again to Celeste, Stephanie, Dan, the EXP crew, and to Jesse. Thank you guys for having me. Hopefully, when you guys come down next year, Shane Kelly from Another Zelda podcast, I hope you're there too, because I would love to meet you also. But we're going to get into some housekeeping. This is episode 254 of the Nintendo Pow Block podcast. Each and every week, we come together to talk about games and everything we love about them with our friends. You can join us live on Monday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time on twitch.tv/BossRushGames live and be a part of the conversation. But if you can't join us live, no big deal. You can head over to youtube.com/BossRushGames and BossRushGames.com to watch the show or listen on your podcast service of choice. Remember to subscribe, follow, rate, and review wherever you consume us. It helps us out with discoverability. And check out our family of shows wherever you listen to your podcast. Come join the Boss Rush Network Discord. We have a ton of communities there that talk about games, entertainment, snacks, and more. So everybody, it is time to get into Snacktendo. Corey, I'm going to start with you. What you been snacking on, man?
I haven't really been snacking on things, but I do have 2 meals to talk about from this weekend. So my wife and I had this discussion where like we've been eating like utter crap lately, like just shoveling garbage in our mouth, and we're like, look, we gotta cool it, right? Got a little extra down here, feels like lately, and just kind of got to get rid of it. So we're like, this weekend's gonna be like our last hurrah. And this week we're going to start eating better. We're going to start eating, good stuff. So we celebrated by Saturday night getting one huge giant burrito for myself from Casa del Rio. It was very delicious. Finally got that habanero salsa on there. Let me tell
yes,
you.
Please.
Let me tell you, it was really good. It was really good.
You're working off the pregnancy weight, Corey.
Yeah, I am. It's it's taking longer than I expected. My pants just don't fit right anymore. So there's that. I got the Chipotle chicken, which is like this. It's like this amazing marinated chicken that's just delightful with some grilled jalapenos and onions. And some refried beans on there and some cheese. Oh, so good. It was so good. So they also have this new vegetarian like meat substitute thing. I was this close. I was like, you know what? I like part of me wants to try that, that path, but then I'm like, but that chicken is so good. So good. So, but yeah, I got that. It was so good, man. The way they grill their jalapenos and the onions in the salsa there. Oh, it's so good.
Grilled onions make everything better.
I know.
Yes,
they do.
Fun fact: if you need to save on money and you do cook meat, you can mix in a chopped up grilled onions with your beef, and it'll make it go longer, and it'll all taste the same.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, and if you want to add a little bit of flavor, you can also chop up some green peppers and throw them in there too.
Mm-hmm. Oh yes.
So
David looks like he's in heaven.
Yeah. And then last night there's a really like quote unquote fancy pizza place down the street from us called Dewey's, and we got a 17-inch pizza, and my wife and I ate the whole thing.
Sounds like you started strong with your goals there, Corey.
I did. I said this weekend was the last hurrah. I guess today I had some. I had a Caesar salad tonight for dinner, and this. I don't really know what it was. It was like It was kind of like a quiche, but without like the garbage in it. I don't know. It was like an egg white thing. I don't know. It was good. It was really good. It just like I don't really know how to describe it really. So, it's yeah. Not gonna lie. This weekend was we celebrated too hard. I'll say so. But by the way, the shout out to Dewey's and their Santa Fe chicken pizza.
Ooh.
Their Santa Fe barbecue chicken pizza it's got corn and black beans on it. It's got sliced red peppers, drizzle of barbecue sauce, some oregano on it. It's so good.
That sounds fantastic.
Oh, it's so good. You can get it with or without chicken.
Ed just passed out. We lost him.
Yeah.
I love Santa Fe chicken. Just love it.
But that's what I snacked on. So I'm gonna pass it on.
Okay. So David, what have you been snacking on?
Well, it was my son's birthday this week, so we had kind of a backyard birthday feast, and my wife made homemade lasagna, which we haven't had in a long time, and I love a good homemade lasagna. And then for dessert, we had dark chocolate brownies with walnuts chopped in, which walnuts and brownies, I know some people that's not their thing, but a good nut in with a brownie is like I'm in heaven. So it was fantastic. So that with a little bit of coffee.
I could do it, but of course I need ice cream. I think I just hope like my brownie don't have too many walnuts, because sometimes it's too many and I'll be like, I just want to eat it. And I love me some good walnut. I love it. Now I want brownie. Is that all?
That's all for now. Yeah.
Okay. Jacob, what have you been snacking on?
I've been snacking on a whole lot. I've been doing pretty well with my slow transition to veganism. I've been doing really well with that. A lot of noodles and a lot of rice with peppers and onions and vegetables and stuff in my past and future. But one of my coworkers took their vacation this last week, and they went to Mexico, and they came back with a whole bunch of candy, specifically a candy that everyone at my place of employment likes. I don't know how to say it in Spanish, but it translates exactly to candy with chili. And I know that's a lot of things, but this specifically is like a fruit taffy candy with chili. And oh my God, this stuff is like crack. It's so good. They've got cherry and mango, strawberry, which I can't eat, apple, like it's so grape, it's so good. And they're like that perfect amount of fruity sweetness with that chili coming in, and like your mouth's not on fire, but it's like you can tell that it's spiced up after you have a bite. And like they're taffy, but like they're good to either chew or to just like sit there and suck on throughout the day, because they last for forever if you do it that way. Like, oh, so good. So I'm trying not to eat too many of those, because she sits, there's me and then another fellow engineer's desk, and then her desk. And so like throughout the day, people will come by and grab candy out of her bowl, and like all I have to do is like reach over to get it. So I'm trying to keep myself from eating too many of these, but they are so good.
Mexican desserts with the sweet and spicy are so good. Like a good Mexican hot chocolate that's got the like
wait,
kick to
what?
it.
Wait, what?
Mexican hot chocolate. It's spicy and sweet.
I've never heard of
this.
this.
You gotta get one sometime, Ed. When you come to Seattle, we'll find one.
Yeah, Seattle's on my list of places that I want to go. Goodness.
They're absolutely delicious. Some of the stuff I'm not a big fan of, but there's a lot that's like, man, why don't we have anything like and then like you mentioned walnuts earlier. Like they I don't know what they do to their like package of just like nuts, peanuts, pecans, whatever, but they are so much better than just like buying a thing of like what's the Mr. Peanut? What's that brand?
Planters.
Those don't even hold a candle to these things. They're so good and they're crunchy. But yeah, so that's my Snacktendo.
All right. Before I get to my Snacktendo, because it's not a lot, shout out to Safi and Mystic from Lore Together. Those guys were awesome. They live in Chicago. And we got to meet them, and we just literally connected. Like I met them. Like we know each other. Like we've been friends for years. That was the thing about it. Everybody felt like we've been friends for years. But my Snacktendo is that we had Giordano's. And that's we had the pizza, the deep dish pizzas where they put the sauce on the top and the bread is thick with the cheese. We ordered 3 largest and everybody probably got like a slice and it was ready to go to sleep. We had some barbecue chicken that was amazing. I don't know what kind of barbecue sauce they use. Man, I literally was ready to fall asleep. After I messed with Story, I was just like, Story, you look like you about to fall asleep. He said, Eddie, you look like you was about to fall asleep, and I kind of was. But yeah, and then David, he cooked some brats and some hot dogs. I don't know where the meat they got the meat from Mariano's. That's a place here, and whatever bread for the hot dog buns they got, A+. What he cooked us was A+. I could have ate like almost 6 brats there. It was so good. And then had some lightsaber gummies and some Twizzlers, and that's about it. And then today I had like Panda Express because I was just hungry for no apparent reason. But that's been my Snacktendo. We're gonna
my favorite thing was when Ed was like, "That's about it," and then today I had this. I love you, Ed.
Thank you. But we're gonna get into some Game Fact events. Jacob, take it away.
Yeah, so our Game Fact advance for this week, following on the tales of Skyward Sword. In the Legend of Zelda series, our hero, Link, often finds himself sporting a shield, a sword, and his famous green tunic. Though there have been many different designs and iterations of Link and his clothing of choice, from pixel to polygons and realism to cel-shaded cartoon styles, there's one part of his outfit that corresponds with an often debated Zelda theory, the timeline. In 2011, shortly after the original Wii release of Skyward Sword, there came the Hyrule Historia, which finally gave fans an official Zelda timeline. The common theory was that Legend of Zelda had a split timeline, with Ocarina of Time's child and adult paths being the fulcrum. Nintendo, however, offered up a third option in which our hero was vanquished by Ganondorf and the world fell to darkness. So why would Link's outfit have an effect on the timeline? Well, pay close attention to his hat. You'll find that sometimes his green Phrygian cap will feature a band around the base. Why is this so important? It appears like Nintendo had the foresight to keep this version of Link's hat, at least in the official artwork, exclusive to just one timeline, the one in which Link is defeated. This includes A Link to the Past, Link's Awakening, the Oracle games, A Link Between Worlds, Triforce Heroes, The Legend of Zelda, and The Adventure of Link all feature his yellow-brimmed cap, which is also featured in Breath of the Wild's Hero of the Wild outfit.
Wow, that's quite the Game Fact advance.
Yeah, man. Yeah, so that somehow it worked out for them that all of their artwork had that little hat feature in it, which, you know, doesn't maybe it wasn't foresight, but I think Nintendo was pulling the writer's route and knew exactly where they were going from the beginning.
That's awesome. I'm gonna have to go back and look at that now.
Oh yeah,
copy.
Yeah.
Don't be surprised if you see a Zelda Dungeon article tomorrow on that. David's furiously taking notes. Can you repeat that? What games were those?
Well, we're going to get into some Femi news. David, take it away.
All right. Thanks, Ed. So our first story right on target here comes from mynintendonews.com from Sicker. It's the writer. The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword HD is number 1 in the UK, and it's the 4th number 1 weekend release for the Zelda series, which is kind of interesting. There's actually only been 4. The latest UK physical game software charts are now in, and the newly released The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword HD for the Nintendo Switch is number 1 this week. The game is the 4th in the Legend of Zelda series to reach number 1 following Link's Awakening, Switch, Wind Waker, GameCube, and Ocarina of Time, Nintendo 64. You may be wondering why The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild wasn't number 1, but it went up against Horizon Zero Dawn on the PlayStation 4 in 2017. And then we do have the top 10 chart for the weekend ending in July 17th. So up at the top, of course, is Skyward Sword HD. Number 2 was F1 2021. FIFA 2021 was number 3. Coming in at the 4th spot, still, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. Number 5 was Animal Crossing New Horizons. 6 was Minecraft, but specifically on the Switch. Number 7 was Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury. Number 8, GTA 5. Number 9, Mario Golf Super Rush. And number 10, Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart. So, for our panel, things to consider. What are your reactions to Skyward Sword HD taking the top spot this weekend, particularly after all the drama leading up to it? Does it surprise you that Zelda games have only done that 4 times in the franchise history? And any thoughts on the fact that Nintendo continues to dominate the top 10? So, Jacob, we'll start with you. What are your thoughts on this story?
My biggest takeaway is, and I know it's interesting because like I've heard that the UK is a very heavy Sony user base. Like they really like Sony there and PlayStation. But it's just interesting because I seem to recall that when Breath of the Wild and Horizon Zero Dawn released, Horizon came out and then it got just completely overshadowed by Breath of the Wild.
I think review-wise it did, but if you remember at that time, PlayStation 4, there was probably, 60 million of them in the wild at that point, and the Switch had just come out and nobody owned a Wii U, right? So, like, I mean, you got to take that into consideration too. But that, I mean, you look at Zelda now; it's trounced Horizon at this point, right? Probably double, at least. So
that's true. That's true. I didn't consider that. Just the install base alone, was enough to would have been enough to probably dominate that. What's
crazy too is like NPD does not count digital Nintendo sales, so this is all physical releases, which is
right.
I want to, because there's so many. Sorry, I didn't mean to derail the conversation, but like, the fact that these games keep selling physically, and a lot of people, at least that I know, have gone fully digital on Switch, like, that means there could potentially be like somewhere between 20 and 40% more sales of this particular game that NPD is just not counting because Nintendo doesn't track digital sales.
Yeah.
Corey, so along those lines then, are you surprised by the fact that Nintendo makes up so much of the top 10 there, or do you think Nintendo fans tend to favor physical copies over other company fans? What do you think of that?
I definitely think Nintendo fans favor physical copies over digital, specifically just because so many Nintendo fans grew up collecting Nintendo games, right? Like, it's just something we became accustomed to. You know, it's so easy to go into a store and just pick up a copy and go. Or, you know, with Amazon 2-day free shipping and guaranteed release day delivery, it's like, well, it's a no-brainer, right? Especially in a country where our internet isn't exactly the greatest if you don't live near a major city still, right? Like, that's just one of those things. And then you look at something like Microsoft, who's pushing Game Pass, which is all digital. So, like, the contrast and stuff there, but there's certain games that like really make sense digitally, like Animal Crossing really makes sense digitally. So it's always it's funny to see like, well, Animal Crossing physical copies are doing so well. How, why? You know, like, it's 16
million physical
30.
copies of Animal Crossing?
No,
it's 30 now?
It's like 30 something. Nintendo's official report was like 34 or
32,
million.
I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
that's insane.
And Mario Kart just keeps selling. There's like 45 million copies now.
Could you imagine? Sorry to derail, but could you imagine if Nintendo did release Mario Kart 9 and they just had that exact same attach rate people just double dipped on Mario Kart.
I mean,
they probably would. I don't see
Yeah.
why they wouldn't. I mean, it would be like an instant 45 million sales.
Yeah, it'd be like,
Yeah.
dude, as soon as Mario Kart 9 comes out, it's like a day one purchase. I will stay up if it releases at 3:00 in the morning. I'm staying up to buy it. Like Mario Kart is so good. Mario Kart 8 is so good that I bought it on 2 consoles and played hundreds of hours on both of them.
Ed, I want to get you in on this. So, what's your reaction to that top 10 list? Does it surprise you only 4 Zelda games in its franchise history have finished number 1? What are your thoughts on that?
It surprises me because it's looking at this list. I was just like, man, Nintendo, from them not having any games and people wanted them to close their doors or go third party, to now them being on top and selling these games. A lot of companies wish they could sell physical games like Nintendo's selling. Like this is
You could have
crazy
just
that
said
they're
games,
still.
period. I think people wish they could just sell the games the way Nintendo sells them, period. Right? Like,
Well,
I mean, you look at. Sorry, Ed. I don't mean to derail the conversation, but Sony is so proud that their number 1 selling game in Spider-Man has sold 14 million copies, and that's their best-selling game of the PlayStation 4. And there's 14 million PlayStation 4s out there, and they only sold 14 million customers Spider-Man, the biggest probably superhero in pop culture history, right? Like Mario Kart 8 is a port of a Wii U game, and they've sold 45 million units of a game that they basically hit copy save as .switch and put on a cartridge.
It's that simple.
Even outside,
It's that simple.
even
Hey, I played
outside
Game
of-
Builder Garage Demo. It is that simple.
even outside of their port games, they literally just like some of their new IPs and stuff is still selling and making numbers. And so seeing it on the NPD, it kind of just shows you the strength of Nintendo's IPs, on how strong it is. And this is why people are buying them now, because they learned, like we talked about how we talked about doing a Mario Kart thing and a Double Dragon for $2.6 million. If you don't get the game now and you're going to be trying to look for it, that's the stuff that you're going to be paying for. So everybody's just like, let me get this physical before it goes out of print. Yes, there is digital, but if that physical goes out of print, good luck trying to find it.
Plus
now
those
with
cartridges cost money to print on, right? So like, I mean, you look at Xenoblade Chronicles 2 right now is so hard to get. Like, it's so hard to get that Wario64 is tweeting out, "Oh, GameStop has used copies for sale for $54.99."
Which is just ridiculous.
It's like and like you're not even guaranteed the box with the used copy from GameStop, right? It's just like they might just mail you a cart in an envelope and say, "Here you go."
Yeah.
Right? Like it.
Yeah. Well, I'll wrap this particular news story up by just saying that, the Steam Deck came out, or it was announced this week, right? Everybody's talking about whether or not that's going to compete with the Switch or be a Switch killer, quote unquote. It's like people need to realize that Nintendo dominates not just because they have great hardware, but because they have great games. And as long as Nintendo has the kind of games that create this cultural following, they're going to continue to clean up in sales. And I think this top 10 list does that. Go ahead, Corey. You'll be our last word on
just to piggyback off of that thought, like, people always point at the Wii U, well, games don't make the hardware. Well, like, I think Nintendo realizes that they can't split. Games are getting so big and so expensive that they can't split the difference between a handheld and a home console anymore, right? Like, right. And that's why the Switch is such a unique and fantastic idea that I think Nintendo's been trying to crack that nut forever, right? Like the Game Boy Advance connected to the GameCube, the Super Game Boy even, right? Like, they're always trying to connect their handhelds to their system, and it's like, well, let's just put it in one console, and here we go. And this is look at the Switch, man. Like, it's the greatest device Nintendo has ever made. I will throw that out there right now. Right now. Okay, next story. Sorry.
Well, we're gonna be quick through this one, but just want to point it out because I think it's interesting for our listeners to know. So Mario Golf Super Rush launch dollar sales were highest ever for a Mario Golf game in the U.S. So this is from Brian over at NintendoEverything.com. Quote, Mario Golf Super Rush debuted on the NPD chart at number 3. We now have some additional insight into the game's performance. It's confirmed that launch month dollar sales for Mario Golf Super Rush were the highest ever for a Mario Golf game. Mario Golf Toadstool Tour, which came to GameCube in July of 2003, held the record previously. So just a quick reaction to the news. What does Nintendo take away from the sales report? Does this validate the market for Mario sports games, or is Mario Golf Super Rush just kind of a unique game? Ed, I want to get you in on this. What do you think?
They are doing, I think, with Mario, they're doing good with their marketing for traders. It's something about their traders that they do for their sports games that get people amped to be like, oh, that looks so good, and they'll go out and get it. So there is a hook right there. I literally think that this is just like more people want sports games because people want slugger. It's not slugfest. Sluggers, yeah. Slugfest, goodness. They want sluggers and they want strikers and they want these games to come out to the Switch. And so it's paving a way that Mario could, as a series, still be successful in the sports arena games since we don't have the big like NBA and NFL kind of games. That's not cheaped out.
Excuse me, sir. NBA 2K22 is $4.79 on Switch right now.
That is a mess. So I think people love the arcadey Mario sports games. I still want to play that volleyball game that got canceled. I would love to like play that game because volleyball is one of my favorite sports. But yeah.
So we're gonna move on to the next story momentarily. But Corey or Jacob, I didn't play Mario Golf Super Rush, but did either of you get it or have any thoughts on the sales figures for this?
You go ahead, Corey.
Oh, I was gonna say I got it. I've spent a lot of time with it. I think it's fine. Like it's fine. It's serviceable. It's a serviceable Mario Golf game, right? It's not the best one. It's not the worst one. I think that it's the best-selling Mario Golf game because it's on the Switch. Like it goes back to our previous topic, right? Like it's on Switch. It's going to sell. It's going to sell. So,
Jacob, anything?
I can kind of reiterate that in that my fear is actually that it convinces them that they don't have to do as much in their sports games, because Mario Golf is very much it's a great golf game. It's very bare bones for a Mario Golf game though, and the adventure mode is phoned in,
subpar.
I think.
Okay.
Yeah. So that actually concerns me more, that they're going to look at it and say, oh, we don't have to put that much effort in. And when we do get the greatest Mario sports series of all time, Super Sluggers, they're going to phone it in and it be not great.
Where's the mini golf? That's not what
I want.
Where's the mini
Where's
golf?
mini golf? Where's like mini games in general? Where can I... There's like thwomps and stuff all over it. It's just it's good. It's a really solid golf game.
The mechanics are good. Everything else feels phoned in.
Yeah, it feels like it's missing updates.
I would love a Sluggers. I'll just say this right now, Nintendo. Even if you phone it in, you can have all my money. We're speaking of all my money. We're gonna move on to the next story here. So Nintendo Switch has overtaken PlayStation 3 in sales worldwide. This is from fortressofsolitude.co. According to the VG Charts estimates, the Nintendo Switch has overtaken the PlayStation 3 in terms of lifetime sales. For the week ending of July 19, 2021, 375,106 Switch units were sold, bringing its lifetime sales to 87.43 million units. This compares to the PlayStation 3, which sold 87.4 million units. The figure for Switch includes combined sales of the original and Lite versions. Nintendo's hybrid console was the 7th best-selling video game platform of all time. This is followed by the Nintendo Wii with 101.63 million units, the PlayStation with 102.49 million, and then the PlayStation 4, which sales to date are estimated at 115.73 million units. The Switch is 14.20 million units away from the Nintendo Wii and 15.06 million units away from the PlayStation. It's also 28.30 million units away from the PlayStation 4. So, a lot of numbers there, but reactions, we all know the Switch is doing well. Where do we think the Switch is going to end up in terms of best-selling consoles of all time? Corey, what do you think? We'll start with you.
Well, first of all, I want to point out that they sold more Switches than PlayStation 3s in half the time that the PlayStation took to sell those units. Granted, had a rough launch, it really had a lot of the same issues that, honestly, the Wii U had, where we had one great game every couple months, or maybe every 6 months, maybe a year, but they did it in half the time, which is super impressive. Nintendo fans are out in force. But I think it's probably going to end up, it depends on if they decide to iterate on this thing for 10 years, right? Or if they're like, okay, well, 2024, we're going to put out our new console in 2024. Maybe it's backwards compatible with Switch, maybe not, I don't know. Or maybe they go the iPad route and are just like, okay, here's the next iteration of the Switch, which I think would be the smart route for them.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's going to end up... What? Go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying, if they do that, then it's definitely going to end up as the best-selling console of all time, right? Yeah. If there's just various versions, but it's all under Switch.
I think it's what the DS and then the PlayStation 2, I think, are the two best-selling consoles of all time. So I could see Switch hanging in there with them. I think next year is they have a huge lineup next year that we know of so far, and that's definitely going to boost sales. They'll probably hit, I would say, 90 plus by the end of the year. I wouldn't be surprised with that lineup next year, if between people upgrading to the OLED model, people just getting Switches for their kids, maybe they want a second Switch for the house, whatever. I could see them hitting 120 million next year with that lineup and that combination of things. So I don't know. This could very easily end up in DS territory, easily, over the next 3 or 4 years. You only have to sell, in the next 4 years, you only have to sell 11 million units a year to hit that. I think that's very doable.
Yeah.
So that's my take on that.
Ed, does the OLED Switch boost Nintendo's chances then of hitting some of those numbers?
Oh, yes. Oh, for sure. You're going into the fall, which would end up going into the holiday with this. And people who feel like their launch Nintendos are dying, they're going to pick it up. People who are seeing it probably for the first time, or seeing it like in cases, because I wrote a blog for Boss Push Games called The Nintendo Touch, that Nintendo knows how to market little stuff to you for you to go and buy it. So that Switch OLED is just going to be in the cases. They're going to be like, come here. Hey, I'm looking pretty. You're interested to me. I got some good games that's gonna really help you, really experience this. And people will go in and pick it up. And although they say they're not gonna buy it, it's there. So you got from October to December with a lot of games coming, and Christmas time, that's when everybody's gonna get it. My thing is though, it's funny that they keep going for a PlayStation. What does this say about Microsoft? Because I haven't heard nothing about Switch Beat 360. I haven't heard nothing.
I think
it did a few months back.
Yeah,
but
the PS3 ended up outselling the 360, but I think it's because Xbox was really gearing up for the launch. Because Microsoft is notorious for, once their new console is out, their old console is dead. They're just like Viking funeral, arrow in the face. Like it's done. Arrow to the knee, I guess, would be a better reference. But I don't know, man. I think if we're talking about Xbox here, I think they're looking at different numbers now than console sales, right? They want player engagement and Game Pass subscriptions because Xbox,
ecosystem.
Yeah.
Ecosystem.
It was just weird that when it compares the sale numbers for Nintendo, it's been a lot of Sony compared to Microsoft.
I think Nintendo and Sony just have this different rivalry that they just don't have with Microsoft, because just because of the whole, ever since the Nintendo PlayStation split, right? Like, people remember the PlayStation was supposed to be an add-on for the Super Nintendo, and then Nintendo pulled the plug on that literally last minute and went with their contract with Panasonic that never happened here. Philips, that's what I meant, Philips. And obviously they got that weird GameCube that I don't know,
DVD.
looks like a weird microwave thing. But I just think Nintendo is always being compared to PlayStation because PlayStation is the biggest name in the game in terms of home consoles, right? And Nintendo is the legacy, and people are always pulling for Nintendo to like fight back because like ever since even the GameCube era, right? Nintendo's always scrapping to reprove themselves. To me, it always feels like that. And when PlayStation has been so dominant over the last decade, it feels like, yeah, the Switch is super popular right now, and the games are great and everything, but I just feel like that's where that mentality is. We're always comparing it to PlayStation because PlayStation's always been so dominant. I mean, you look at their consoles, like every single one of their consoles in handhelds except for the Vita has sold over 80 million units. 3 of their home consoles have sold over 100 million units, right? So, yeah, I think people want Nintendo to hit that level because Nintendo's been so important to gaming since the 80s and even before that. So,
Well, Nintendo just, I think when we look with the OLED and we're going into the future, of course, with the games and stuff, we're still seeing unannounced games that's coming to the system. And by the time we'll see how Unreal Engine 5 does on Switch. And if it performs well, we'll probably see some games. I know we
you
won't
just
see
look
the
at
next,
Fortnite. You look at Fortnite.
Well, let's dive into our next story because it's
Yeah.
actually kind of related to what you're talking about here, Ed. So there was a report recently in Bloomberg about Nintendo's profit margins on the OLED Switch. So let's talk about that because there was a development with that today. So Nintendo disputes the Switch OLED profit report, denies having plans for a new model. So this is from GameSpot.com from Darren Bothus. In a Bloomberg report last week, analysts claimed that the new $350 OLED model of the Nintendo Switch cost Nintendo only $10 more to produce. Nintendo has now publicly denied those claims and said that the original report was incorrect. A news report on this is from Nintendo here. A news report on July 15, 2021 claimed that the profit margin Nintendo Switch OLED model would increase compared to the Switch. Nintendo tweeted, "To ensure correct understanding among our investors and our customers, we want to make clear that claim is incorrect." So the company didn't reveal how much the OLED Switch upgrades actually cost, and it also took time to address fresh rumors of a more powerful Nintendo Switch Pro being in development. Quote, "We also want to clarify that we just announced that the Nintendo Switch OLED model will launch in October 2021 and have no plans for launching any other model at this time." So Nintendo rarely addresses rumors and leaks. Why did Nintendo decide to respond to this story from Bloomberg? Are you influenced by their fresh denial? Hold on just a minute. Are we influenced by their fresh denial, or do we think there's a more powerful Switch in the works? All right, Ed, we'll go with you, and then Jacob, you're going to follow up.
Because Nintendo's not going to speak on something that analysis doesn't know really about. No one knows what Nintendo Japan is doing when it comes to their business model and what they're developing. Everybody here in the West, we've seen the upset with the OLED model because of leaks and rumors, or not leaks, a lot of rumors and even Bloomberg's wrong reporting about what the next Switch is going to be. Now, Nintendo is not saying anything because they're controlling their marketing and they're controlling their message. Everything is just bluff. And when it finally gets released, Nintendo get the butt of the anger, because everybody believed the rumors and the leakers and stuff or whatever, and Nintendo didn't say nothing. Nintendo never reveals anything. If they're going to make a Switch Pro or anything, they're going to go ahead and do a whole complete new system as a next-gen system. It won't be a part of what the current system is. It doesn't make sense to them for them to do that. Now, of Unreal Engine...
Well, okay, so let me get Jacob in on this. Jacob, are you convinced by this, and why did Nintendo, of all stories, respond to this one?
So I have a theory. I'm not a market analyst at all. I have no idea if any of this is true. This is just my crazy behind the scenes crackpot theory. The reason they responded to this is because this implied that they would be making higher profit margins, which can affect their stock. And I think that in order to set their shareholders straight, this was an entirely, you'll notice this didn't come from even the Japanese Nintendo like game announcement account. This came from the corporate Nintendo account. That's where this information came from. This came from the business side of things. And I think this was totally a business move just to make sure that shareholders wouldn't invest thinking they'd report higher profit margins and then they wouldn't. However, I have to ask, why does that even matter? Business company that his goal is to make money makes more money. Who cares? How is that a story? Like, I just assumed. I didn't even when this first came out and people were like, "Oh, this probably didn't even cost Nintendo that much." I was like, "Yeah, duh. They've made a profit on every console that they've sold. Like, they're not gonna be like, let's jump in and lose money on this OLED screen."
They bought these OLED screens in bulk because nobody uses 720p OLED screens, right? Like Samsung was trying to offload them, and Nintendo's like, "Well, we got this fancy handheld device. Can we just like change the trim around the edges and make it fit these Joy-Cons?" And there you go. You know what I mean? Like it's just like, Nintendo isn't stupid, right? And like, of course, first of all, of course they have another console in development. It's Nintendo. They always have something in the barrel, right? Like it's just like, I think like to Jacob's point though is like to keep their shareholders at bay. They're going to say that because they're literally just putting out a new version of the console that's selling so well. Why would you say, hey, we have something else in development after this? So, plus they want to sell the product. So, of course, they're going to say that and say, oh, you should buy this one because there's nothing else coming. It's like
I think that the day before the DS Lite came out, there was a story with Nintendo publicly denying that there was an upgrade, and then the next day they announced the DS Lite.
Yeah, I mean, you look at what Xbox did a couple years ago with the Xbox One S and the Xbox One X. They announced them at the same time. I think Ed and I even had a conversation about this. It was like, why would you announce two consoles at the same time, put one out now, and then put one out a year later? Like, what? Yeah. What's the point of that but I mean, obviously the S sold well and the X sold well. So, I mean,
which was a naming mess. Can we just say that?
I mean, it still is to an extent, right? Because there's still Xbox
Series S.
There's still One S's out there. Yeah. Like,
now that's the one when people got confused with the Series X. They ended up buying the One X and it wasn't the right system.
Yeah, that was funny.
So people want to bash Nintendo about their naming conventions with the new Switch, but please.
Yeah, I mean, it's better. It's better. It's better than the Wii and the Wii U, right? Like, I mean,
that was the low point for sure. Yeah. All right, Ed. Go ahead, Jacob.
Well, but that's what's like. The reason they come out saying no, we're not working on it is because exactly what Corey and you said is like it kills their profit margin. The moment they say, hey, they announced the OLED Switch, and I guarantee you somebody who was going to a store to buy a Switch went, oh, I guess I'll wait. Like, because why not? Why not just wait a little bit to get the better thing? Like, and it's almost the same price. Yeah, like no, they're not going to tell people, hey, we just got this new OLED, so here's the new Pro coming out in 2023.
No one's crazy like most of us who are going to own all three versions of this thing.
Yeah, it's true. All right, Ed. Well, thank you. That is our family news segment. So I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Okay, and I have a bonus family news story for everybody.
Oh gosh!
It was just announced that Monster Hunter Stories 2 has shipped over 1 million copies. And they did that in 10 days. So congratulations to Capcom for doing that number, and there's a possibility they could hit 2 million. That's crazy for Skyward Sword to hit number 1 and Monster Hunter Stories 2 to hit number 1. I mean, to sell 1 million. That doesn't include PC that I know of. But if they are adding it to PC, I think most of the game probably still sold well on Switch.
That's amazing.
So shout out to this. I already tagged LeBron in it, so I can
he's upset because he wants people to play Rise. but that's fine.
But as Rise continue to sell numbers also.
Yeah.
And there's didn't they announce a Netflix show as well?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that franchise is doing well.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
It's Capcom. Monster Hunter World is Capcom's best-selling game of all time. So, which is insane to think about because it was like so niche, like literally years for years. But anyways.
Yes. Well, everybody, it's time for Doc Mode. And we're going to get into this one because I can't wait to hear everybody's answers about this. Last week, we went hunting in Monster Hunter Stories 2 with our impressions of the game. This week, we fly in the sky as The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword HD has landed on the Switch. We have thoughts on the game, and we'll tackle why people are enjoying it more this time around. Also, is Nintendo great when it comes to the Wii versions of games like remasters, remakes, and reboots of their past titles? So let's get into some impressions of The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword HD. I'm going to go to the Zelda professional himself, Mr. David Laxby. Go ahead, sir. What are your impressions of the game?
He's muted.
You're muted, bud.
You're muted. He's still muted.
No.
Uh-oh. Oh, no.
Uh-oh.
Technical difficulties, everybody. It's fine. Promise. Nope.
No.
We can't hear you. Okay.
Yeah.
So, as the professor is getting his notes together, we're going to go to you, Jago, because you did a 24-hour stream.
David, you there?
I am. Can you hear me?
Oh,
Yes.
okay. So,
Okay, all right. Skype is
Okay.
the gift that keeps giving. So, just stop me whatever, because I got a lot of thoughts. So I'll try to keep them succinct and organized. I guess thinking about what you said specifically about Nintendo doing the remasters, I think they did a masterful job on it. To me, this Skyward Sword is the definitive version of the game, and I think they did such a good job at addressing certain issues from the last game. And I know we're going to probably get into an interesting conversation about the controls, but I'll just say briefly that I've tried the controls both ways, and I think it is night and day difference in terms of accessibility to the game. One of the things that has stood out to me most, though, about this remaster is how smooth it feels playing the game and how quick you can get into the action. I recently replayed Skyward Sword on the Wii, because I was playing it with my daughter and I have the Wii Motion Plus and all that. And it just took forever to get through that early part of the tutorial. Like, I know people like to bash Twilight Princess as having a really long tutorial, but Skyward Sword isn't that much better the way it was originally with having to do the Knight Academy and all that. So, I've just been really, really impressed with it. I'm about 9.5 hours in now. I just beat the Earth Temple right before coming on to the show tonight. And it is definitely, this remaster has vaulted the game into my top 5 where it wasn't before. So,
Yeah.
All right.
I have to 100% agree with you, David. I struggled with Skyward Sword on the Wii to the point where, like, it's the only 3D Zelda game I haven't finished. It really sucked because I love the story. I think this is the best story in all of the Zelda franchise. I think, like, Link and Zelda's friendship / something more kind of, let's tease you a little bit. Like, I love that aspect of the game, and like it just really hurt that I had to watch the story through a series of YouTube videos that I didn't really want to watch. I wanted to play, and I always kind of, I don't want to say I regretted not finishing Skyward Sword, but it was always like that one, I should just do it. And then they announced this, and it's like, well, wow, I'm just gonna wait now. To the point where, like, yeah, okay, I tried really hard with the motion controls for about 20 minutes. I just can't do it. But the fact that they eliminated that problem for me, plus speeding up the game, going from 30 to 60 frames, everything just feels so fluid and fast and smart. And it took me back to a conversation that Ed and I had really early on Nintendo Pow Block, where Skyward Sword is, if this game was in HD, it would be one of the most beautiful games I've ever seen. And Yeah, some of the visuals look a little bit dated because obviously it's a Wii game essentially, right? But like the way they cleaned up a lot of the textures, the draw distance, the way like the painterly look still exists there, right? This is a masterful game, and I was a little bit worried about this, but then when they came out and said, after I played it and after they came out and said who the developer was, Tantalus, which handled the Twilight Princess HD port, and I'm pretty sure they did the Final Fantasy 10 and 12 ports to Switch as well. Yeah, this game is going to probably skyrocket into probably a top game for me in the franchise. It's so whimsical and fun, and it's just I don't have enough good words to say about this experience that I'm having with this game that I originally had a terrible experience with.
Okay, Jacob.
I have a somewhat of a hot take, I guess, in that the motion controls are absolutely fine, and it's actually the enemy AI that is the problem that so many people struggle with, myself included. And it is still a little frustrating to end this remake. However, I can't reiterate enough that it's a beautiful game now. It was really well done in 480p, just graphics, art direction wise, but bringing that to HD gives it that extra, like you can actually see all the little details and all the love that they put into the game. Which it's the case for most remakes and remasters that get brought up from that old school style to this. I'm absolutely loving my time with it, though. I personally don't notice the difference between 60 and 30 frames per second. My eyes aren't that good. So it feels just as buttery smooth to me as it did on the Wii. It just looks way better now. I did a 24-hour live stream of it on Saturday, and I seem to recall a big complaint being with the imprisoned and how you fight him over and over and over again. Mm-hmm. I fought him in 24 hours. I fought him one time. Is that like, did I do something different? Did they change that? Because in my memory, I feel like I fought him a lot.
Because I think you must have fought him like about 3 times, I think.
Yeah, well, 4 if you want to get the Hylian shield.
Oh,
okay.
But because there's a boss rush, spoiler, you can do a boss rush at the end of the game. But yeah, there's 2 more down the line here.
Okay, yeah, and that's what I was thinking, was like, well, maybe you fight him once and then there's like a big break in between, and then you fight him several times kind of back to back on the smaller segments. But like to not get too super spoiler heavy, just because even though it's an old game, it's a re-release that some people this is their first time with, is I'm now powering up my weapons to make that a little vague, and I've yet to fight him again. But when we can talk more about the controls, I'll get more into my idea of why the motion controls are perfect and the AI is not great.
Okay. Ed, can I jump in one more thing really quick? So I guess another thing that I really like, and part of this is because it's 10 years later, but this goes with remasters. I have a different setup now than I did 10 years ago, with my Wii. I've got, TVs have changed, so we have better quality TVs. I've got a home theater surround system now, and just playing Skyward Sword HD in that environment, it just feels so silky smooth. And everything just feels so much more immersive. And I know that we're going to talk about the controls later, but when I say the game is smooth, I don't just mean the art direction. I mean things like flying the beetle with the motion controls. Like, everything feels so much easier and less a pain to manage. There were so many times playing on my Wii, where I felt like the game's controls got in the way of immersion. And this game, I feel fully immersed constantly. So I just wanted to add that.
Go ahead, Jacob.
No, you go ahead, Ed. You go ahead.
So I'm just going to jump in quickly because I just started the game due to the fact that I had a busy weekend. I am shocked just with the frame rate on how silky smooth it is, and just how fast it is. Like, I looking at the characters, like they're so cleaned up in this, the color and the shading pops. I'm like, oh my goodness, this is gonna look bunkers on the OLED. Like this, I mean, yes, Metroid Dread is gonna look good for the dark stuff. This game will look fantastic for the colorful stuff.
Can I cut in here real quick, Ed, just to piggyback off that? Like, if they like this game and Breath of the Wild and Wind Waker, you're talking about games, the art styles that age well. This is where I think, and it's gonna kill me to say this, but I think this is where Twilight Princess is going to look dated, right? Just because they went with that semi-realistic, kind of darker look, and like, yeah, some of the stuff's going to look great, but like that game is going to look dated. And whereas Wind Waker and this game and Breath of the Wild are all going to just look beautiful forever, especially now that they're all kind of cleaned up and HD'd. And this game is so beautiful to look at. I've taken so many screenshots, it's not even funny. That screenshot button is going off all the time.
I will say, with the, and I know we'll get, I think I was gonna do the intro of the game faster than a regular Wii version. Something about it just like, I think it's because of skipping a lot of the text, just holding the B button, getting that done, and just going to different parts of Skyloft. I'm like, man, this looks easier. What felt like would take me an hour, this only took me about 25 minutes to get through, and I like that. And just Feed looking good in this game, and getting the goddess sword, because that's what they called it, and stuff. Just this game looked like it's going to be like something, like you said, David, like this is the definitive version of it. And I think it's going to do well. I think more people are going to continue to pick this up, and the people who missed the first one, they're going to get this one. I don't know if there's been
comparison
videos out just yet. I know some people tried to get some out, but I don't know if they did they analyzed it and did a breakdown for it or anything. Mm-hmm. Now let's address these controls. I'm playing on the Pro controller, so I think the one problem that I have with it is holding the the L button and the B button to run while trying to move the camera. I think I wonder, could we reconfigure it in a way? Because I kind of want to I could keep the camera thing on the L, but I kind of want my run button to be on the ZR button.
Or even squishing the joystick down, right? Like, could you just squish that to run like you do in FPS games?
Yeah.
So you can reconfigure your button layout on the Switch natively, and it'll apply to all games. So you'd have to go back in and fix it, but you could do that. That is a possibility.
You can save up to 3 presets for that, right? I think
it's 2 or 3. Yeah.
I keep using the Breath of the Wild button layout, and I'm like, oh, I can't jump this. I do wish that to use the stick as the sword, I wish you had to hold the L button down and just let the camera be the free.
That would make more sense.
Yeah, I feel like that would have been a better way to go, because I always find myself trying to turn the camera and I'm just whipping my sword everywhere, and I'm like, oh, yeah, man.
Does the camera still snap to directly behind you?
Yes, you can.
If you hit the left trigger button.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I do like the fact that it's easier to call your bird when you jump off.
Your Loftwing?
Yeah, the Loftwing. Sorry, caught just being general like a bird. It's more easier to get on them, and it's easier to fly with them. If when you had to get that goddess statue to win the contest, it was so easier to do this than playing with the Wii controller. I was just like, oh, this is a breath of fresh air and everything. I do like using the right stick to do my sword attacks. I am going to be playing a little bit more of this game, but I find the controls that they have in this game works. I just gotta configure the running button because I feel like if I'm doing the top buttons, pressing that B button, it sometimes messes me up and stuff because it's one of the Breath of the Wild things. I'm used to that control.
I'm used to for me, I'm used to X being sprint. Or for in Breath of the Wild, because I'm using that B button for jump.
Jacob, are you playing with the handheld mode, or are you playing with the motion controls?
Oh, motion controls all the way.
Okay.
I haven't even touched handheld mode yet.
Okay.
Same. So can you talk? I'm curious what you think, because I have a lot to say about the motion controls too.
Yes, the motion controls they're basically flawless. The one interesting thing that I ran into, because I've only played it here sitting at my desk, is that when I played it on the Wii, I did the Wii thing that they recommend, where I had space around me, I was full arm swinging my sword, and it worked beautifully. Here at my desk, I'm very cramped, so I had to be like little motions, and that was a little harder.
T-Rex
but
arms.
exactly. Yeah, I was like, come on, get him. But the ability to hit one button and it just instantly syncs like central to however you're holding it, that was used so beautifully. And as soon as I figured that out, combat was much easier, even in this tiny space. And especially like anytime you have to do a forward jab, no matter where you've got it, just hit that button and then just jab straight, like however you have the controller. It works every time. Go ahead.
Yeah, Jake, what you just said, that is the key that unlocked it for me. I've played probably 90% on the motion controls, and flawless is the word that I would use too, because once you figure out that you can reset the gyroscopic controls by just pushing the Y button, it makes everything so, like, there are certain moves that I know that I'm going to do. Like if I ever need to do a Skyward strike, I'm going to hit the Y button and then immediately it registers, which for me, the single most irritating thing on the Wiimote Plus and the Motion Plus was trying to do that Skyward strike. Like I would be waving my arm in the air. It would never keep track of it, and this, I haven't had a single problem. So the Skyward strike, the jab, and flying the beetle. There's this one part on the first temple, the forest temple, where you can get a bunch of rupees by flying the beetle through these U-shaped caves. If you've done it, you know what I'm talking about. I used to crash that beetle all the time in that part, and that was when I noticed it, just how easily I could navigate the beetle through these tight spaces with the motion controls. I'm so blown away by how much of an improvement the motion controls are in the.
Yeah, I wanted to bring that up because that's interesting that you brought out the beetle specifically, because when I was playing, I very much was like, the beetle feels slower than normal. And I didn't equate it at all to just the smoothness of it, but maybe that's what it is. I'd have to go look at a comparison. But it feels a lot slower than, and maybe I'm thinking of the upgraded beetle specifically in my head, but that was one thing. And then, so the reason the motion controls don't suck, and I'm interested to know how y'all who are using the stick controls fare with this, is my theory is that the AI sucks because those bokoblins, the moblins, whatever they are, they're holding their sword up to the left and you swing from the right. 90% of the time, no matter how accurate or fast you swing, that sword dashes over like a bolt of lightning and blocks it. And that combined with the fact that it doesn't use the Assassin's Creed like fighting engine where if you're targeting someone, it's just you and them, and all the people around you will like wait patiently to be taken down. They will come at you nonstop,
blowing their horns.
Yeah. And so I think that if the AI was just written differently, the motion controls wouldn't have nearly as much of a hatred towards them, because that, for me, when I do get mad at the controls, it's because I know I swiped correctly. I know his sword was over here and I swiped over here. His sword was on the left. I swiped from the right, and then he blocked it because he just dashed over somehow.
If they're holding it sideways, though, doesn't that tell you that you're supposed to slice down? That's what I kind of got from it. Like, it doesn't matter like which way they're holding the sword. If they're holding it horizontally, they're telling you to do a vertical strike, I feel like.
But Jacob, you mean vertically when it's aligned left or right, correct?
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I have that issue occasionally as well. But that's again where I've gotten in the habit of hitting the Y button right before and it resets it,
Yeah.
and then it's not an issue.
And so that's again why that Y button is so genius, because you'd slashed from the right and then they'd immediately block to the left where your sword is. So you hit the Y button again and you just keep going. Like it works so well. But yeah, like that. Oh man, I have such like a hard time talking with people about the motion controls in that game, because I really do believe that it's not the motion controls at all. I think they're very one for one, and I think they were even in the Wii version.
That to piggyback off the AI thing is like, I feel like the AI like is dumb because they wanted people to get acclimated to the motion controls, and like if they're just attacking you while you're trying to get your sword lined up or whatever, right? Like I feel like that would be really frustrating, and I feel like the enemy AI is not so much dumb but just slow at points because they're trying to get you acclimated to the motion.
Yeah,
it's different. It's different.
The moment that I realized that the Joy-Cons were superior to the Wii Motion Plus was my first fight with Girahim. Because he throws, not too much of a spoiler, but he throws these 5 darts at you as one of his battle moves, and you have to match the angle that the darts come. And that fight was brutal on the Wii. And this time it was like beating him first time, no problem. It felt good. It felt good.
That's like the side villain before Ganon, correct? With the hair.
Spoilers. Ed.
Yeah, well,
he
can't answer that question without ruining something. So
I mean, he's in the trailer, so it's not like it's a Zelda game.
I mean, it's not Ganon though. So,
yeah.
Anyways,
we can't. No more. We gotta
more.
say
I will say
spoilers free.
I do love him as a villain. I think he's an awesome villain for the Zelda series. Especially when he like lick out his tongue. Like
he's got some attitude. Yeah,
he's so incredibly cocky though, because he's never just like, he's always like, I won't kill you, I'll just make you wish you were dead. And then when it doesn't happen, he's just like, oh, well, I didn't want to this time. It's never your fault. You never. Oh, it's great. I love him as a villain.
Speaking of motion controls, it kind of seems that just address a little bit. They're getting a lot of the Zelda Joy-Cons out, and so people are able to buy them now and have them sit to their home or pick up in the store. We talked about the Amiibo being delayed to next month, so there's a chance that more people will be able to get them.
We actually have a question. We have a question about the Amiibo, by the way. Not to cut you off, but just when we get there. From Twitter. So
what did you guys think about that when you heard the news? Like, you seen that now more people are able to get these extra accessories for this game?
I think.
Go ahead, Jacob.
I think it's great. I've always been a vocal source of just let people pre-order however many they want to pre-order, and then make that amount plus some extra. Like stop canceling, stop cutting off a pre-order date. You would know how many you need to make. And the fact that like the best way to combat, because no matter what you do, bots are going to always be faster than humans are for for scalpers and stuff. So the best way to combat scalpers from a company standpoint is just make it so that it doesn't matter how many they buy. There's always going to be some available, so why go buy from a scalper? Just wait like 3 days, and then there will be one at your local Walmart or Target or wherever.
What you think about this, David? I'm sorry.
I'm glad, because I was one of the lucky people to get my mine pre-ordered, and so I've been playing with mine, and they're my favorite Joy-Cons I've ever had. Probably my favorite Nintendo controller I've ever had. Honestly, they're just beautiful. But it's interesting because that's counterbalanced by my absolute frustration with the Amiibo experience. I also got my Zelda and Loftwing Amiibo pre-ordered at the same time, and it's been stuck in, I've been on customer service calls repeatedly, and part of that is on Nintendo, part of that is, the outlets that are selling it, but it's not isolated. Everybody I've talked to has had theirs delayed or some sort of problems. And I feel like it doesn't have to be that complicated. It shouldn't be that hard to make the product available. What Jacob was saying about making enough of them based on pre-orders, making sure that stores have it available. Like, people want to throw money at your product. Don't make it so darn hard for people to get it.
Yeah, I mean, I get that, like, selling through your product looks good to investors and stuff, but I get that Amiibo... certain Amiibo aren't as popular as they used to be, right? I mean, look at before Animal Crossing for Switch came out, how many of those stupid Animal Crossing ones did you see on clearance for $1 or $2?
Oh yeah,
and now
nobody wanted those.
Gosh, I wish we all had the foresight to just buy all those.
I have them all.
The crazy thing is the Amiibo cards for Animal Crossing sold more than Animal Crossing Amiibo themselves.
Yeah, well, like the thing is like, I get that selling through your product is good for investors, and you'll say you'll make more, but like, this is a Zelda game,
right?
Like, even when Breath of the Wild came out, those things were so short printed. I had to pre-order all of them, and they didn't even re-release the champions until Age of Calamity came out. Like, this is a Zelda game. The Amiibo should be available for people to go purchase. It just should be, and I get that it's delayed. Like, I'm struggling to get this. My head's going to explode if I don't get this Amiibo. I'm just saying, because I know I saw what the Wolf-Link Amiibo does in Breath of the Wild. I can't wait to see what the Skyloft one does.
Especially after that trailer. We know,
yeah.
right?
Oh, yeah. Dude, these things are definitely in there, right? Like, if you can fly a Loftwing and have Wolf-Link Amiibo run around below you and take... Oh, gosh, this is going to be, like, the greatest game of all time. But that comes to our Amiibo question. It says, do you think that the Zelda Loftwing Amiibo will have functionality in other games other than Skyward Sword HD? It's definitely going to have some sort of functionality in Breath of the Wild too.
Yes,
definitely.
Definitely, if they're talking about the sky.
Yeah.
Can I make a quick prediction?
Yeah.
I think when Breath of the Wild 2 comes out and it is revealed that is in fact Skyloft and the Amiibo has functionality, it wouldn't surprise me if Nintendo releases a patch for Breath of the Wild and allows the Loftwing to be in that as well.
Yeah.
I guess got that feeling.
Or at least let it like lay eggs or something for you to cook.
Just something that
stupid.
Yeah.
David, you might see my legs up in the air of me falling out of that.
And you have to finish the game first.
I did finish Skyward Sword.
Game.
No,
did do the DLC though.
Oh, the Breath of the Wild. Yeah,
but I need this Amiibo. I need this Amiibo, guys. It's driving me insane that I don't have it already.
I can say, I think due to this delay, if it helps them make more product out to get out to more people who want it, because it felt like it with the pre-orders, a lot of people did get a chance to get it. So it felt like it might have been a short stock when they did the pre-orders. Now, if they're not doing no pre-orders now, but if they're able to make more where you could actually walk in the store and buy it, I think that's going to be a great thing because they're selling. This game is selling, and I think people want this Amiibo not even for the functionality, but just to have it.
Yeah,
it is a really beautiful Amiibo.
It is. It's cool. It's so cool looking. Like, to me, like, this would make sense. No offense to Metroid Dread, but this makes sense for those Metroid ones, right? Like, you pre-order, like, you make enough to fulfill pre-orders, you make a couple extra for walk-in customers, and then like, because Metroid's so niche in terms of the Nintendo pantheon, right? That like these Amiibo will sell to the hardcore and maybe a couple extra who maybe like to have, a couple things and, oh, Samus is in Smash. This is a cool version of Samus. Let's buy these, whatever. But like Zelda is your premier franchise next to Mario.
Right.
Like, why are you short printing Zelda Amiibo? These things should be everywhere. The Breath of the Wild one should be everywhere. The Link's Awakening one should still be everywhere. And it's not.
At the height of your promoting Skyward Sword, too. You've dumped all this advertising into it. Why not create purchasable accessories?
And they should have been available like the week before, too, and to get people excited. Like that's like marketing 101.
If they're coming from Japan the pandemic is still affecting business.
It's not coming from Japan. It's coming from Taiwan or China or wherever they're manufacturing.
They're
these
still being
things.
affected. They're still being affected.
Doesn't matter. Where's my amiibo?
So we're gonna get into the last part then, because I know we all want to get to what we've been playing and head out, because more Skyward Sword is just, yes, it's so good. Did you guys think that Nintendo has been doing their great thing with their remakes, their remasters, and their reboots? I know a lot of people had their complaints about the Mario 3D All Stars, but we do have people looking forward to the Advanced Wars coming out. Everybody, dropped their jaws and became anime girls and anime boys of cuteness when they seen Link's Awakening on Switch. Like, there's just something about when Nintendo does these series of games. Do you think that Nintendo is doing a great job, or do you think they can improve upon that? Corey, I'm gonna start with you.
Man, I don't know, man. Somebody else go. Let me think about this for a minute.
Okay, Jacob.
I have a couple.
Go
Go, Jacob.
Go, no, go, David. Go.
Okay, so I would say they haven't universally done a good job if we're going outside of Zelda. I think a lot of people had some frustrations with the Mario 35 games. I thought those seemed pretty basic ports, and things like fixing the fixed camera in Mario 64 particularly is an egregious offender.
Yeah. Oh.
But Skyward Sword HD has been incredible. Super Mario 3D World was incredible, and they included bonus content. And here's with Bowser's Fury. Stephanie, our writer at BossRushGames.com, had a great idea this week in an article she wrote for Boss Rush Banter, wondering if Nintendo would follow suit with Breath of the Wild and release some DLC for Skyward Sword. And I love that idea. And thinking back to like how good is their series, if they released even just a small DLC for Skyward Sword, maybe you could play from Zelda's perspective as she's doing her trials kind of off screen from Link, even just as its own thing. That would put it at 10 out of 10 for me. And while I don't think Nintendo would typically do that, gaming has changed since past eras, and we are in an age where DLC is a profitable thing, and I think it's at least possible.
And Nintendo, the DLC that Nintendo has put out has been, for the most part, fantastic, right? Like, you look at the Mario Kart DLC, you look at obviously the Smash stuff has always been good. Age of Calamity, and the Breath of the Wild stuff has been good. I think what would be really cool is if they made DLC that tied directly to Breath of the Wild 2 in some way. Like, maybe not, obviously not a Breath of the Wild type expansion, but like maybe Zelda's Trials.
Story-wise.
Yeah, maybe Zelda's Trials set up a major story beat in Breath of the Wild 2.
Or who's underneath the castle. Right?
That would be really cool.
Jacob,
it's just the big teeth whale monster thing. That's all it is.
Jacob, what are your thoughts about the Nintendo doing remakes, reboots, and remasters?
Okay, so as a Nintendo fan, I love that they're doing it. I think they're doing an excellent job. As someone looking at it with a critical eye, I don't think they do it any better than any other company that does remakes and remasters of their games. I think that they do enough to make it viable for purchase again for the most part. Sometimes they don't, such as with the Super Mario 3D or All Stars collection. That was arguably not worth the $60. But for fans, as a fan, of course it is, because I'm going to shill out money for whatever Nintendo wants to offer to me. But I don't think that they necessarily have anything special about their remake process. Like, I think what's more special about their remake process is that the games that they are remaking have a much higher, started with a much higher value to gamers as a whole than some of these other games that have been remade. Now, obviously, every fandom has its cult following, But as a massive umbrella, everyone knows who Mario is. Everyone knows who Link is. So when they remake these games, it's like a big thing. Mm-hmm. But it's not actually a big thing. It's just big because we love the source material, not the remake. The remake could be either here or there. I would love it just as much if they just brought Skyward Sword to the Switch, like as it was. I would be disappointed because I want it to be new and shiny and good, but like I would still play the game. I would still buy it. So I don't know if there's anything to be necessarily celebrated for Nintendo for doing these remakes. And that's coming from like Link's Awakening is my favorite game of all time. And the remake of that game is absolutely the most adorable game in the history of the universe.
Amazing. Did you get the amiibo, right? You got the amiibo?
Of course I did.
I love the amiibo. It reminds me of like a mix of like little people for like the toys, the little people toys that my kid plays with, and like Playmobil almost.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
It's so good.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, just to finish off is like, but that's the source content is what we love about the remake. The remakes themselves are okay. Like they're usually subpar at best. But the source content is amazing, and that's what makes it so special.
Yeah. I think with Nintendo, when they actually go in and do a remake, the game feels better compared to the original time that game came out. Because if you look at Metroid Zero Mission, everybody is just like, this is one of the best Metroid games.
I just downloaded it on my Wii.
Yeah, but what I'm saying with that is that it's so good that they're saying that replace the original version and play this. That's one of the recommendations. Samus Returns. Don't forget, Mercury's theme just came away from Castlevania Lords of Shadow 2 and how that hurt them as a company. Mm-hmm. But Samus Returns made people fall in love with them.
But the thing is like Nintendo cares way more about their franchises than Konami ever will, right? Like that's the kicker, is that Nintendo had such big oversight on that.
Well, yeah, but it's I think it's the turnaround for them. Go ahead, Jacob, because I have more to say, but I'll let you.
So to that point, the last time I was on the show, I was talking about how the remake of Skyward Sword is great, and it's no different than the Demon Souls remake, and people gave Demon Souls such this like huge praise for being remastered from the ground up and rebuilt, and it's like, but they're the exact same. They're the exact same in that regard. They both work with the same aspect, and then like to that point, taking a game like the original NES 8-bit Metroid and bringing it even to 16-bit is a huge leap. There were such massive leaps from old school gaming to now versus like past generation, the Xbox 360 even to the Series X. The only real leap is graphical capability. Like there hasn't been anything like they're still making polygons the same way. Mm-hmm. There's just more of them now.
I think Nintendo
David wants to say something really.
Go ahead, David.
Well, let me just say really quick, just as a counterpoint, Nintendo has never given us something that Final Fantasy fans got with the remake of 7. Like Nintendo, if they actually took Ocarina of Time, redid it with modern graphics, altered the story even, right? Could you imagine Nintendo giving us something like that? I don't think that'll ever happen. So to Jacob's point,
you really don't think that'll ever happen? You don't think they'll ever take like the original, like the original Legend of Zelda and remake it into like this sprawling open world?
I don't, and I hate that because I wish they would. I would totally throw money at that.
The closest thing you're getting to that is Breath of the Wild.
Yeah,
they'll make a new game, but they won't change their source material.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people are ready to throw money at them if it's their favorite series and they do something for it. I think Nintendo, like definitely with a lot of their remakes, they've been doing a good job. People, it's excite them. They want to go and play it. And sometimes people prepare their kids and other gamers to play the original version before they play that remake. Sometimes that brings out more sales. Like what Metroid did last week and how we talked about it with Metroid Dread. Like people are buying the are buying the games on Wii U and playing them, like a really big jump. So Nintendo's doing something at least with the remakes. Yeah, the re-releases or there's some of the remasters. You could take it or leave it for what it is. But for people who have played the original version and then played this new version, they see the difference of it. And with when they reboot something, we don't really get that many reboots from Nintendo, but when they do reboot it, it grabs people's attention, and they want to go read the history. They want to go see some of the gameplay, and like the guy who did the Famicom Detective Club, like he wants to do another game. It's to him, it's a reboot of the series. If they put out a F-Zero game right now and they reboot it, Nintendo are going to see the sales, and they're going to reboot that series that people want to play more of.
All right.
All right. Yeah.
But Jacob's got me fired up now, and I'm realizing things that Nintendo hasn't really done with their remakes. That maybe. Okay, so 2 quick examples. I just got the Master Chief Collection for my Series X, and I love playing the original Halo and being able to just push a button and see what it looked like on the original Xbox versus now. Dragon Quest did that as well, with switching back between 2D and 3D. Where is that, Nintendo? Come on,
okay.
All you have to you can do that on a system level by just making the output ratio to 480i.
Oh, come on! I want it in my game.
That's exactly my point, though. Is that like there's these other companies that have done such amazing things, and like. So I've been playing through all of the Metroid games because just like everyone else has, but like a game like Super Metroid doesn't need a remake or remastered because it's beautiful and it's perfect. A game like A Link to the Past doesn't need an HD remaster because the pixel, like that's the peak of pixel artwork and design.
But it would have been cool in Link's Awakening if you just press that select button. It would have gone back to
it would have been really cool, but that would have been like the only thing cool about it, though, right?
Yeah,
is that it's
nobody really. Everybody wants to play the new thing, though, right? Like, it's fun for like 5 seconds in Halo to switch back and forth, but you're not really going to play the game like that, right? Like, you're not really going to play the Halo 2 Anniversary Collection.
David's about to be like, I played through the whole thing with those polygons.
We're gonna get to the last part of this, and then we're gonna get to playing with Power. One game that she would 3 games. One game gets a remake, one game gets a remaster, and one game gets a reboot. So, Jacob, what are your 3 games? What is the remake?
I would like them to remake Link 2, Zelda 2.
Okay. David.
Go ahead. Sorry.
David,
are we going around just on the remake?
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, David. What is your remake?
Well, Jacob took mine because that's a really good one.
That's the next one. I think
feel
is on
passionate
the
about that.
I think they're gonna do a Link's Awakening of Zelda 2.
Do we have to stay within Zelda for this question, Ed?
No, it's any game, any Nintendo game.
Okay. I would like to see a remake of UN Squadron. That was always one of my favorite games for Super Nintendo and the arcade, and I would love to see that done on the Switch.
Okay. Corey, what is your remake?
Oh, gosh. Remake. I would say, I don't know. Zelda 2 is such a good one. Maybe the original Zelda. I think it would be really cool to have some quality of life improvements in there, and like maybe a little bit of a better map system and like a story, like a actual story to kind of like nudge you along, I think that would be a really cool remake, and it's maybe even like the Link Between Worlds style would be cool.
Okay. For me, I would love Eternal Darkness to be remade. Because of a creepy atmosphere. We got more developers who could really bring out a survival horror game out and just make it look straight psychotic and mess with the camera angles and add more effects when you go crazy. Like, I can actually see that. Okay, so
look at that.
Yes, my computer's over there in my closet. So the second one, what is your one remaster? Jacob, what is your one remastered game that you will want?
I want them to remaster Custom Robo from the GameCube and bring it over to the Switch.
Okay, David, your remaster.
I want the Oracle games together
Yes.
on one disc or cartridge, and I want crossover play between them.
That needs to be have a remake also. I'm sorry, the Oracle games, but okay,
Yeah.
I'm not ready to. Well, I am ready to throw $60 at that. Please, in fact, I'm ready to throw 80. Give me that connection with some amiibos and extra content, like even the Japanese version of the game. I will be find that. Corey, what is your one remaster?
Well, they already kind of pooped one out with the Mario collection, sort of. I would have said Mario 64 would be perfect for like a modern remaster, but they just kind of clearly not even trying. So I would say Star Fox 64, I think would be a really cool remaster with maybe some like real motion controls instead of like the Wii U weird ones that they gave that game. You know, like being able to like do a barrel roll by like flicking the Joy-Cons or something. Like I think that'd be really cool.
For me, it's Hotel Dust Room 213. I would love to see that remaster and be on the Switch. Clean up some of the graphics, and just like go ahead and tell me that good, like allow me to play that good old story from Sing. So our final one. What is your one reboot of a series that you would like Nintendo to do? Jacob, go ahead.
You already know where I'm going with this. CEO right here of Kid Icarus Soulsborne game. I need it in my life. Please, Nintendo. Please, Atlas.
That would be so cool.
I will pitch it. I will figure out how to produce it. Please, someone develop it. I need it in my life.
Okay. David.
So one that I really want that we're already getting is this is kind of a cheat answer is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So I will add to in addition to that. I would love for Nintendo to bring back Mario Sluggers, which again is not a big surprise here, but I mean that's one of my favorite GameCube and Wii games of all time. So those would be two for me.
Corey, what is your reboot that you want?
I mean, I don't know necessarily what I would want, but I'm going to be the hero of the chat here and say, let's reboot F-Zero. Let's give the people what they want.
Okay.
It's no longer a racing game. It's now a takeaway restaurant.
Here's the thing.
game.
I could see it being like a Diddy Kong Racing style
like
game.
RPG.
Yeah. For sure.
Especially since he's a, bounty hunter.
Yeah.
For some reason.
Oh God, Diddy Kong Racing. We got to throw that in there as well.
Diddy Kong. Okay, but where do we reboot, remaster?
I think it's got to
just make Diddy Kong
brought
Racing
back from the dead, right?
Just make Diddy Kong Racing 2. Who cares?
Isn't there a Diddy Kong Racing 2?
Maybe
No.
Conker strolls in and he's got a beer in his hand or something. I don't know.
Well, for me, a reboot. Everybody who knows me should know what I'm about to say. Elite Beat Agents. Like, I need it back. I need that series to be back. I understand we got WarioWare. We'll probably get a Rhythm Heaven. I want Elite Beat Agents back so bad. Y'all just don't know how much I love that game, love that series. How we will play this game, just continue to put it on handheld and just let me pop stuff. Like, I do something with it. Figure it out, Nintendo, because I want that game back so bad. Like, I love Elite Beat Agents. Because everybody, if you are a Pow Blocker along with us, you are an Elite Block Agent. So it's time to get now with Playing with Power. Corey, what have you been playing with Power?
All right, I'm just gonna make this fast because it's been the same couple games. Monster Hunter Stories 2, I played a little bit more. Don't know when I'll get back to that though, because Skyward Sword is out now. So I like it a lot. I'll get to it after. Mario Golf, I've been playing a lot of, and then obviously Skyward Sword, we talked a lot about tonight. So Yeah.
Jacob, what are you playing with Power?
I've been playing through all of the Metroid games. I played through all of the 2D/Metroid Other M. And now I'm working through the Metroid Prime games, the 3D games. I'm currently working on, it's going to be a while, but I'm working on a very long-winded series talking about my thoughts on those games. So look for those on my website and on bossrushgames.com. I'll announce it when it's actually coming again later on.
Did you finish? You finished Other M, right?
I did finish Other M.
Okay.
I have some thoughts on that game. It's not as bad as everyone says, but boy, is it esoteric. And then I am playing through Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles and Skyward Sword HD on my stream, which after one or two of those, or both of those are done, I actually have an announcement that I'd like to share with everyone in Boss Rush Games and Pow Block community, is that my stream, Galatrad, I've now got the capability to play old school games directly from the console. I'm not an emulation fan. I'm not going to be doing that sort of thing. So this is directly from the console. I went out and got myself the hardware that I would need to do that. And so I'm going to be putting out a poll on Twitter here in the next couple of days, probably on by the time this comes out. It'll be up there as my pinned tweet. So please vote on that for what game. I'm going to list some games that I would play from the old school systems, ranging from N64 to Wii, possibly from SNES to Wii. I'm not sure if I want to jump into an SNES game, though, because I think I just have most of them that are on the Switch. So,
Okay. David, what have you been playing with Power?
Well, I've been playing a lot of Skyward Sword and Triforce Heroes, and I was right about to beat Xenoblade Chronicles when Skyward Sword dropped. So I gotta get back to it eventually, but it's gonna have to wait because I need to play through Skyward Sword. So those are the games that I've been playing.
Okay. Monster Hunter Stories 2, Skyward Sword HD. I jumped into still playing Crosscode at this time, and now I may have to wait because Corey tweeted out to us that Dying Light Platinum Edition is coming to Switch, and then there's another game, Land something, that adventure game or that story game. I think David, you posted the story about it.
The route is it like Route 66 or something?
Right,
Route 96. Yeah.
96. Yeah.
I think
that looks good.
Yeah. I'm thinking of doing a talk the walk for that one now. Now that they got the data, I'm like, ooh, I may need to play. August is a mess of a month of so much. It's ridiculous. So Kenna, Psychonauts, No More Heroes 3. I'm like, good googly moogly, I'm gonna be broke again. So
I will probably touch on this next episode, but if you're planning on buying anything on the 3DS or Wii U, kind of breaking news here. Now, I don't know if this applies to the US or not, but at least in Japan, they are going to stop direct payments through credit cards on Wii U and 3DS eShops starting in January 18th. So,
yikes.
if you want
buy those games soon,
buy those physical carts soon because they're going to skyrocket in January too. So,
yeah.
Yes.
We'll probably touch on it next episode, though. We have been going long, so.
Yes. So, everybody, that's what I've been playing with Power. And let's do some quick plugs, and then we're going to head out. Corey, where can we find you?
You can find me on Twitter at IamCoreyInHD.
Jacob, where can we find you?
you can find me everywhere on the internet at Galatrad. Once again, please go to my Twitter handle and vote in that poll that will be up on Wednesday. And look forward to my series that I'm going to write and possibly make videos for on Metroid, because playing through all the Metroid games has maybe made it my favorite series of all time, above Zelda. So we'll see.
Ooh. David, where can we find you?
You can find me at David Lasby on Twitter, over at bossrushgames.com and zeldadungeon.net. I did also want to just give a quick plug. We are looking to hire 2 more writers here for bossrushgames.com in the month of July. So if you, obviously you love Nintendo, you wouldn't be listening to us, but if you also would be open to writing about it for us, please go ahead and reach out. You can look at our contact page on our website. You can also just email directly at opportunities@brg@gmail.com. That's opportunities@brg@gmail.com.
Yes, and please go to zeldadungeon.com. David has a new story up that you guys would definitely enjoy.
Yeah, I want to throw something out there too. We are looking to add to our Xbox team as well. If you are interested in Xbox or want to be part of a podcast or something, we are looking to grow our Xbox side of Boss Rush as well. So same information that, David just threw out there.
Yep.
Yeah. You guys can find me on Twitter at ThatRetroCode and check out my other podcast, Optional Opinion on SoundCloud and World War One Podcast. And yes, everybody, that has been Nintendo Pow Block. We have discussed Zelda, snacks, and more. So with that, everybody, we will see you next time on Nintendo Pow Block. Bye, everybody. Woo!
Have a good night.